some kicks up again. Maybe I can be a tour guide.
Yes.
I'll practice. This is hands-on practice. Good to go?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try to do this without falling down, you folks. Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to Landfill Advisory Committee meeting number 3. This meeting is called to order at multitasking 1:10. We will begin with roll call. Members, when I call your name, please say here or present. Steve Chang.
Present.
Suzanne Jones.
Here.
Ken Kawahara.
Present.
Emmett Kinney.
Here.
Natalie McKinney, and I know she's not here. Brennan Morioka is also not here, but he let us know in advance. Jimmy Nakatani. Thank you, Jimmy. Cynthia Resentes. Hi, Cynthia. And Trisha Kehalani Watson. Thank you, Trisha. Next, I will do a quick introduction of the city's team. So when I call your name, please raise your hand. Okay, starting with Wes Yokoyama, Director. Wes, thank you. Mike O'Keefe, Deputy Director. Marcus Owens, Public Information Officer, behind the camera. Chris Hirota, Refuse Division Chief. Chris, all the way in the back. Ahmad Sadri, Energy Recovery Administrator. Henry Gabriel, Recycling Branch Chief. Kelly's not here, right? Josh Nagashima, our Project Manager. Julie Liano, Planner. Mike Kaiser with HDR. And Ayako Nakasato, HDR. And my name is John Katihira with the Luntiako Consulting Group. I'll be facilitating today. And I guess since we're doing introductions, might as well introduce Wendo, yeah? Our bus driver, Wendo. Mahalo for driving us safely. Okay, we have a few announcements we would like to make, and then also give you a snapshot of our day ahead. First, the formal stuff. This meeting was previously approved as a limited meeting pursuant to HRS section 92-3.1 to visit PVT Landfill, Waimanalo Gulch Sanitary Landfill, and H-Power. These locations are dangerous to health and safety, and it is impracticable. That's a hard word, I know, Suzanne. Impracticable for the public to attend because of safe practices and social distancing requirements that are in place due to concerns related to COVID-19 and its variants. This meeting is being recorded. Thank you, Marcus. After this meeting, the recording will be posted to the ENV website. ENV is Department of Environmental Services. For recording purposes, please raise your hands before asking questions or making comments so that we can get you a microphone. During site tours, please direct questions to our tour guides and ask one question at a time for recording purposes. Please do your best to limit side conversations. Kind of like in school, you know, if everybody's having side conversations, there's no way for Marcus to record and document all of that stuff. So please try to be as considerate to the recording as possible. We plan to have quick side huddles before boarding the bus after each site visit. During these huddles, we can answer any questions or take any comments and decide whether or not to call recess during the next commute. So for example, between sites, so we don't have to have official business while we ride, maybe we can call recess during that period. As a reminder, this is a limited meeting. The committee cannot make any decisions today. Discussions will be limited to the site tours if we decide to call recess during our commutes. Just FYI, photos and videos are allowed, but for committee use only. So please don't be posting stuff on social media. That's not the intent for our approval to allow photos and videos. It's mainly for your information in case you need to reflect back as we move forward with the future meetings. Okay, so finally, here is a snapshot of our afternoon. So we just left Kapolei Hale for people who might be watching this later. Shortly after 1 right now. We're on our way to PVT. We should get there around 1:15. It's a 15-minute commute. We're gonna hang out there for about an hour, and then we're gonna be leaving for Waimanalo Gulch Sanitary Landfill, arriving there around 2:30. And then there's a 10-minute commute to H-Power, and we'll be at H-Power from roughly 3:30. And then we're gonna be wrapping up and returning back to Kapolei Hale. Hopefully returning at 4:30 this afternoon. Again, in between each site visit, we're gonna try to request or see if the committee wants to call a recess so that we don't have to have official business during the commute. Not only is it challenging, but it's also a limiting factor of our technology. Since Marcus is running the video, there's limited battery and even hard drive space on his camera. Plus, it's just tiring recording the whole 3.5 hours. Okay, so that's it for the official business part. Are there any questions? If not, is there a motion to recess? Is that you, Jimmy? Jimmy motions to call recess. Do we have a second? Ken Harhara seconds. Are there any objections? If no objections, the committee stands in recess until we reach, where are we going next? PVT. And then once we get outside, then we'll reconvene the meeting. All right? Let me get the time just to make sure we can document this correctly. Okay, it's 1:17, so we are now in recess. Thank you.
He's semi-retired consultant service. Not on a day-to-day basis. We're communication on the phone. Once you folks all come in,
We're gonna reconvene our meeting, and then
okay,
we'll move
all
on.
right,
Thank you.
okay, all right.
You good, Josh? You good, Jim? Yeah? Marcus, good. Okay, everybody, we are going to reconvene. So the recess is ended, and the Landfill Advisory Committee number 3 will come to order. I guess at this point, we're going to be listening to the tour guides from PVT. So I think they want us to go in and sit down. Just as a reminder, today all the site tours is educational, but when you folks do have questions or comments, please do your best to raise your hand so that we can deliver this wireless microphone to you, and we can document your questions. Well, did I not say the time? Okay, so when I started talking, I know it was 1:32, so we're reconvening the meeting at 1:32. Thank you, Marcus, for reminding me. Okay, inside, everybody.
Okay. Anyway, have a seat anywhere.
So I'm going to give
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Albert. Been here, just now, it's about 30 years actually.
You lost audio. Try again.
Hello. Okay. Been here. Do I have to be directed towards you?
Maybe you're pushing the power button by mistake.
Oh. Oh, you don't have to hold it while you're speaking. Okay.
No.
Hello. There we go. Anyway, Albert Shigemura, PVT Line Company, 30 years. Well, and as you know, we're the only construction demolition landfill here on Oahu, and the last one. And as you all are involved with finding the next new landfill that'll take care of everything. But at any rate, in the past, we were heavily involved, or we became heavily involved in the recycling end of the C&D materials. But when our plans for expansion were halted, we halted the recycling as well. So, we don't have our recycling facility no longer up. It's been dismantled, and we've had I think we had at one time about 90 employees. 50 plus were involved in recycling. It's pretty, labor intensive. And so we're back down to maybe 30 plus employees right now. And the focus is on the recycling, on the landfill only. And we still are recycling a portion of our old landfill, pulling some of the metals out of there, but very minor. And I think at our peak we're recycling about 140,000 tons of material, mostly concrete. And now we are really just, recycling very little, just some of the metals that are coming out. So I'll give you to Joe, and he can give you a little bit more background on where we are and what we're doing, and certainly if you have any questions, we'll get to that so we can get you on the site tour and off and running.
Thank you, Albert. My name is Joe Hernandez. I've been in this business 20 years or so. What I want to do is see if we can answer some of your questions. Some of you have residents on this tour and your tour for the other facilities. In a nutshell, we are a landfill. And in my experience, I've always described it as a hole in the ground where we put rubbish in, and society has basically made that low-tech choice for handling our waste. We just done it better too. We've done lining, we've done environmental, we looked at screening out the waste that comes in and being better at managing and operating it at this point. The PVT landfill has two phases. One is phase one, which is about 50 acres, where it's online, but was managed in the early years, and that's where the waste was going in. As the technology got better and the regulations improved on know-how and managed to build, construct, operate, we opened up 104 acres, I believe, that is now aligned. And you're going to be hearing, I don't know if you guys are going to do a tour to the Waimanalo Gulch, but you have two types of landfill. One is construction demolition, which is the PVT landfill, and the other one is the MSW landfill, and it's with solid waste. And the difference to me is that one smells better than the other, basically. And PVT is a C&D landfill, and we take in the construction demo, which, in addition to the other types of waste, like liquids, asbestos, things like that, but those have to be permitted, and we are permitted for those. The Waimanalo Gulch is MSW, and I'm saying that and including that because I used to manage that also. So I have the advantage of at least knowing the difference between the two and operating both. At this point, we're at the PVT landfill. We will be taking the tour up to the site, going around the perimeter. And as you know, we're going to be going up to where the active phase is. You're going to be seeing areas where we've worked, placed certain types of waste. So feel free during the tour that you guys will be asking questions. We hope it's not as much questions because I know you guys in a fixed time, and we're going to try and put in as much information for your purposes at this time for today. If you want to say anything else.
No, the only other, I guess, as Joe said, you'll be taking a site tour just to get you kind of familiar with where you are. Right now, you're down here at the entrance. You came through here from LAC, and the tent structure itself is right here. And we'll be just taking this road, this permanent road that we have, that'll go towards the back, and you'll see some of the areas that we've already filled, and the slopes, they're not closed yet. We still have work to do on that, but as we go around, you'll see where the MRD or recycling facility used to be. You'll see some of the equipment still there, and then we'll make our way up to the top, and you'll see the current landfill operation, and then we'll just work our way back down. That's about all there is to see right now.
Anything, I manage from the environmental side also. I make decisions from working with the customers, doing the environmental screening, profiling, and all that. So, from a public standpoint, you've got a landfill, and you put in waste, and you always worry, is it hazardous, is it bad for the public, is it, all these kinds of questions. And when people hear about landfills, we think about waste and all the things that might go wrong or we would put in there. But really, to be honest with you, you have to be more worried with people that are illegally dumping versus one that's engineered, permitted, and actually managed properly. And that's where your waste can be managed. The screening process is part of also the EPA and the Department of Health's criteria for conditions of operation. And that's where I come in as far as knowing what the customer will be bringing in. And we do that by the information they fill out on their forms, the tests they are required to do to make sure we're on level for acceptability versus non-hazardous versus non-hazardous. So at this point, with construction demolition, we also have liquids, which we also accept under a permit. That's basically because we know that customers out there have liquid waste that they need to, that are generated and need to dispose of. Now liquids can be, and that's under our certification permit. Part of that is because you can't just introduce liquids straight into a landfill. It's under conditions of managing a landfill where you can't do that directly. So what we do is we provide a certification pit where we solidify the liquids until it passes the drain filter test, and that's when we dispose it into a landfill as a solid waste. Okay. We once took asbestos, and we have since terminated not taking that in. However, we've kept open the options just in case in the future we will be doing that. There are other ways, and I don't know if you have more questions, any kind of ways with contamination, making sure that we follow the criteria for the operations in the permit to make sure that the levels are acceptable. Maybe I can open it up to questions. Just
Yeah, do
briefly.
you have any questions before we start?
What's in there?
Sorry, Joe. So you So part of what we're going to try to do today is, I know it's clumsy, we only have one microphone, but we kind of need to pass it around because it's not just for us to hear today, but it's because we're recording for future viewing. And if we cannot hear the questions, then the people who might be at home watching this video not going to understand. So it's going to be clumsy, but if we can try to do our best to hand the microphone to each other to ask your question and then for you to provide your response. We also have a lot of sanitary wipes in case you want to wipe on the microphone before you grab it. No be shaky. Thank you.
The question I had is, you said you stopped doing the recycling piece of what you were doing in here. So I know the goal was to go through all of your solid waste from whenever the PVT landfill started. So how much of the former waste has been recycled? How much more is there that has the potential to be recycled? And do you also know, and are keeping track of the stuff that's coming in, how much of that is either being recycled, because you said you're doing small kind, but how much opportunity is there in the future for that to be mined, if you will?
Well, you know, at this time, really the only portion that's being recycled are the large pieces of metal that might be coming out. The concrete, which we used to crush and recycle and reuse as well, we get very little concrete now, which I really don't care. It's bulky, it's hard to deal with, you got rebar, and so most of that goes to either West Oahu aggregate or to Grace Pacific. And those are the type of bulky things that really generate the total tonnage in terms of, you know, materials recycled. Metals itself is I don't know. We keep track, but it's very small, very small. And it's only the metal that's going up. We're not sending anything else out. But it's less than 5,000. It's less than a few thousand tons per year. And as you know, the metal market, it costs more to ship it out to Schnitzer than it does to. The only thing it helps us is save some space. Sometimes it's questionable whether it's worth that savings. Anybody else with a question? Okay, let's go on the tour.
Well, I have a question.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here today. I'm not sure if I missed it, but what is your estimated lifespan left on the PVT?
Well, that's a good one. Yeah, we probably gain some time because it is slower now, and we don't take the big bulky items, the concrete blocks, if you will. But nothing huge is happening right now anyway. You know, Ala Moana or First Hawaiian Bank building, those things really took up a lot of space. But, and it took a great deal to just crush that material. So, you know, when we went in for expansion, we had estimated 5 to 7 years at that time. And that's why we thought, well, you know, with the permit requirements and then starting to build the initial cells and to get our, we were expanding on our recycling, so we're going to have two belt systems out there. But, you know, that would have taken maybe just about the time it would have been for this site to shut down. But now that things have slowed down and we're not taking in asbestos on a daily basis, we're not taking any bulky items like concrete, huge concrete things, we might have anywhere from 5 to 10 years on this site, and just maintaining what we do at this time. And then as time goes on, I don't know, it'll change. You know, maybe even the type of materials we take will become more restricted as we get towards the top, because you know it's more difficult to work in a smaller working airspace or area. So it could range anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And it depends on how things pick up in terms of business.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, so we're gonna go walking now.
We'll take the bus.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna keep the meeting going. Is that okay, Marcus? Okay, so we're gonna keep the meeting going throughout this tour. And just as a reminder, I know it's humbug and it doesn't feel natural because we're such a small group, but if you have a comment or a question, please state your name so that our viewing audience knows who's speaking. Okay, thank you. Who's officially doing the tour?
Joe.
Okay, Joel. I'm going to give you the microphone, Joe, so you can hold it. And then we're going to be live throughout.
Favorite, point to where we're at here and show us where we're going.
Okay, this is where you are. And right, then we'll be, let's see, we'll come up this way. We'll be around in this area here. It doesn't look like this now. This is an aerial from a couple of years ago. But about this area, and then we'll be working our way back down here again. So we just make a loop and then back down.
Thank you.
As we do the tour, feel free to go in and ask questions. Like you said, just raise hand and name. But that'll help me also as we go along the tour. If you see anything.
Bus pretty crowded already.
No, this is a 50-seater or something like that.
Oh.
You make sure you're straight.
Not come along. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I guess I'll take it for questions. You can hold the speaker. Or should we do the speaker?
Sorry?
Let's make the speaker.
Yeah, you need to
I need space for that. Okay, well, awesome, Mike. Right, you guys can.
You can sit here.
Yeah. At least. Yeah. They can be on the front. Awesome.
You know, you can sit like you're supposed to sit.
If anybody has a question, I have the wireless and Joe will be using the wired, so I can pass this back if anybody has a question.
Basically, we're in the main area, maintenance shop. Building behind us is the main office. And we have our personnel, operation, mechanics, all that handles it. As we go around, we're gonna go around this one. Yeah. We go around this to your left, you're gonna see this green colored, looks like a bin. We use that for what you call screening and viewing any waste that we may have questions about, and we have them stopped for inspection. As you can see, it's got a ladder and a platform that we're elevating. We can see into the load. To your left, we have areas that we can store above ground storage tanks and maintenance. And also in the back, you see where the yellow fence is, that's where we can have our residents and the in-station, we can have them drop off their waste. We don't want them up at the landfill active phase that's mixing with a big commercial truck. Hold on. No, hold on. Right. Just go all the way here. If you can.
What, this
Sorry.
one?
Yes. Okay. Go around this.
Okay.
Just be careful, there's got some traffic coming down.
Okay.
The landfill will be on the right, but on the left you're going to see some of the storm basins that we have, control of surface water, storm water runoffs. On the left you got other properties, well, part of the properties that we have up in the middle of the island. You got Ukiawa Stream on the left. We have 6 storm basins. Storm basin A and B. And we're coming up to C, D, E, and in the back where it's hidden at the very corner of the landfill will be F. You can stay on the asphalt. Stay on the asphalt. Also the road. You'll be seeing the storm basin. If you can get a glimpse of some of our skimmers, it helps us in the sampling. and collection of any stormwater according to our permit conditions. On the right, you're going to see areas of the landfill with slopes. They're not at final grade yet, so we're not required to close it. We have intermediate cover according to our permit conditions. In the early years of the landfill, we had regular haul roads. Management was able to look ahead in their wisdom, start asphalting and resurfacing, so that way our truckers, our customers, that came with trucks that were having problems with their wheels skimming and slipping. So that helped in the transport as we went all the way around the landfill to be able to have them transport their waste. As we make the turn, you'll be able to see the area where we once had the MRD, where we had most of the major recycling efforts in last year, right on about last year.
Until last September. When it all closed down.
The adjacent properties, our neighbors, Pine Ridge, West Oahu Aggregate, they handle mostly concrete type waste. Most of this with the MRD, as you can see, being disassembled.
Hey Joe, sorry if you mentioned it earlier. Can you define MRD, please?
Materials Recovery Division, Department, Recycling Division. It basically is separation of waste that comes in raw and loads, and we separate metals, plastic, woods, mostly the organic with the woods. Stay on the right. Stay on the right.
I guess that on both ways is great.
Yeah, I think it's.
It's got a high there.
Yeah, no, you're the driver. That's it. We'll be coming up to basically the middle of the landfill. The site at this point in some areas is probably the highest should be about 150 MSL, mean sea level elevation. The site is permitted to 255, so we got some room. But as we get up there, we have to see basically the need of our operations. On your right, you're going to see a water truck, and that's part of the operations too, is keeping our dust down. Follow that sign. To the left. And try it. And listen close to the edge. But close to it. The road will be barrier. It's a barrier. So just follow. You think the road's going to just move right in. Within the past 6 months or so, we've just started to close off the landfill to follow some of the grades existing. We'll make it a more neater grade and fill, basically. Still on the left here. Work it out. Give them a chance to get out, or do we need to? Up to you. Doug? There's a couple of areas that we thought maybe that'd be a good idea, but we really gave it up to you.
Might want to get closer to the landfill itself. And then you can see also further down, up farther.
Yeah. come around the corner. Past the active phase.
Yeah, because that way they can see
Yeah.
both in the old landfill as well as first operating phase.
We're driving on landfill.
Let's keep going.
Yeah, just go ahead and follow the barriers.
Okay.
Just over a year ago, that area down there, you're gonna get a better view as we come around and we're gonna park. But it's an area that we wanted to decide to start mining two folds to be able to get some of the dirt down there and use this cover, mainly to recompact, get it a better compact to utilize the airspace better and more efficiently. This is the mining hole. You're basically on the left. And when we stop at park, we can see most of it. On the right, I just don't want you guys to miss. On the right will be the active phase where we have our customers stop and dump their load. And you can see bulldozers, the water wagon, basically even the excavator and the loader helping with managing the waste into layers and compaction. I guess we can get out. Yeah, let's plan to get out of here and we can mingle around the front. And we don't want to wander too far, but enough so that you guys can get a feel. I don't know about you, maybe we can stretch our legs to the.
Nice view over here.
Like I mentioned earlier, okay, we can use that for cover. We find there's 20 to 30% that was placed in here, and we can use it more efficiently. And we find a lot of dirt in here that we can use for covering. Other than that, otherwise most operations they either purchase it or find it outside by the customers. And this way we do it in our own operations. Okay, some of the ways they dig out, you can see where we placed it over there. We're going to be filling all this with most of this and other concrete waste types. I can take your attention to behind you. That's what we call ash material that we're going to take for beneficial use, operational use. And that's from the AES power plant, which would be closing when? About next September they'll be closing, so we won't be getting any more of that. But we use it for the solidification, as I mentioned earlier. We use it for cover in the areas that we solidify and put our material. It's for beneficial use, so it's very limited in not just being a waste place all anywhere we want to. It's limited to what we need to use it for, according to our permit. That fine looking material over there that you're probably going to see at the H-Power, because H-Power has something similar when I remember they would bring in all over residue. That material over there is from our MRD when we're separating out our organics and fine screening most of the small stuff. Yes. Yes. That is the ash as we fill it up and back up to where the loader is going. It's going down, but around the other end, that's where we fill up. And again, the ash is about a little under 160, I believe. Again, I failed to mention, as the bus was passing, that slope over there in the back is also owned by PVT. That's about 400 acres. That's where we originally wanted to do an expansion, and that would have kept the MID going and at least given the industry a little bit more, 20 plus years of additional airspace at that point. So at this point, we're being creative and finding out what we have that we have existing.
Ash is 160, that's elevation.
Yes, 160 MSL or elevation. Basically, the landfill is designed 55 at the highest, but that's at a peak. Okay. Gravity coming up. Probably about 55 there. Then we bring down back again. Basically, a mountain. And operations are getting more efficient so that we'll be able to put this into an actual nice clean round mountain. Something that we can capture some of the airspaces that and nooks and crannies that we want to try and fill in and capture, increase the airspace capacity here. The organics is in there, but you wouldn't want to be burning something that's wet and decomposing and all that. I'm sure you can combust most of this type of waste, but it's not something that was thought of.
He's absolutely right. I mean, this material is really, it becomes, well, it starts to decompose on its own. It's been in the hole there for about 20 years, 25 years. And I'm not going to give you the BTUs you'd be looking for. When we proposed to the city using, well, we had the MRD, the wood that we were pulling out of there is what we proposed to offer into the city, for H-Power. But and you all know how that went. Any other questions?
So this area over here, is that unlined because it's on the older section?
There is a clay liner. It's not a plastic liner. That side of the landfill. That side of the landfill basically is subtitle D, meets subtitle D requirements. This side is really what a C&D landfill is all that is really required, is a clay liner. Not much more. So, yeah, and that's the difference. So that's why we take the material special waste, if you will, on that side only. And that's why the things we're pulling out are 20 plus years old. It's just relatively inert construction to do.
Okay, ready to move on? Okay, before we jump back on the bus, please do your best to dust off your feet so that when those bus don't get dirty.
Okay.
Yeah?
I don't put it in.
Okay. But still, just tap your feet on the step before you go up. Thanks.
Any questions before we leave this area?
Just a quick note on time, Joe. It's 2:15.
What time do you think you want to finish?
2:30.
Okay, it takes us 5 minutes just to get back to the maintenance shop.
Okay, perfect.
That's it. Wendell doesn't take a left or right turn. Okay, Wendell.
Some guidance out here.
Just follow that road to the back. It's going to be two right turns. As Albert was mentioning earlier, we have the liner, plastic, and then you're going to learn more of that at the MSW landfill when you tour Guatemala Gulch.
Are we really going down?
Yeah, I gotta go side me because I think it's cut some up here.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. He knows his jogger.
Gonna script the engine.
Yeah, take the wide attorney you get.
It's fun. I come here. He wasn't here.
Just between the two heavy equipment areas, that's the road going on. Right? I was going to ask 3 questions, and you can answer it basically, then you get to leave.
This is a test.
But
Always a test.
I decided not to.
Okay. There will be a test. So there's an open chemical preservative
As we make the turn down here, over to your right, you're gonna see the green, there's another green bin, that's an inspection area. And in the back of it is our truck wheel wash. Because this place does get wet and muddy sometimes, and that's why we clean everything before they leave the site. No problem. Believe it or not, we are still on landfill, mainly inert material from the early years. Okay, like I said, 5 minutes now, 3 minutes.
Go. Mayor.
Steve Chang, what's the situation with the community? You still using silk curtains? Are you still using silk curtains in that area? Or are you far enough away that you've not been receiving any complaints?
The question is, what is the situation with the community and the dust barrier, dust screen wall? You know, part of that there is a buffer area over there about 750 feet, and there's no operations close enough to raise that, except for roads, which is basically the biggest contributor to dust. You know, and we don't have that much big of a or long of a road to do that. But that buffer zone is basically under a permit, and that helps with any kind of nuisance escaping the site. But the screening and all that is part of management, and it just looks more greener also, but it does help.
Thank you.
Just want to add that, you know, we do have a buffer in that buffer zone between the dust screen that we do have up, and it's not your traditional black matte, you know, felt looking thing, thick felt. It's a really nice green, I guess a nursery screen, and it manages to keep the dust out without breaking down. And in addition to that, we have quite a bit of landscaping with trees and a lawn, and it's sort of a park-like area down there. And we try to create that for our employees for lunch breaks and little exercise. Anyway, that's how we try to accommodate, you know, our neighbors or maybe the next door to us. But we have not had the complaints as we did in the beginning while we were waiting for everything to grow.
So if you guys were mistaken that as tennis courts and all that, have at it. That's fine. But it is a nice layout, part of making sure that PVT is a good corporate neighbor. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I apologize if I missed this earlier, but why did PVT stop the MRD operation?
It's really financial. I mean, it was, I think I mentioned, but it's labor intensive, and we had 90 plus employees at that time. And it did not generate the revenue. We weren't doing it to generate revenue. We were doing it to keep up with the industry and with what was happening with the whole issue of sustainability. And that's why our plans for expansion included doubling the size of our recycling program. And of course, the benefit to all of that too is, as a landfill, we would preserve space. But when we didn't get the expansion, then there was really no need to try and preserve any space that we already had. We only have what we have. So now that's why we limit the amount of materials and type of materials coming in, and we also discontinued the recycling division because it doesn't make business sense. It did not. It no longer provided the need that we were seeking.
Can you guys hear me? I was just curious if there is any permit-related or non-permit-related community benefits for being in the area.
I think you hit it on the nose, permitted related versus non-permitted. That's up to working with the entity. Any facility you have, the entity has the minimum of meeting permit conditions as required by the regulatory agency. Now you can start sticking in all these other stuff, which is fine. You work that out into your public hearings and all that. I went through that with Waimanalo Gulch. I went through that with Ma'alaya in Maui. And any community-based type, what else would you call it? Community fee or something like that. Whether it's permitted, I don't believe the regulatory agency can mandate something like that. I think you work that out with the entity. And to being good corporate neighbors, they can agree to it to some extent. Now, it's a business decision too. So just remember that the community may want to require, but it's not so much that it is required under regulatory agencies. There's a basic to what you can meet and do for getting your permit. Once you meet that, you can get the approval, but you don't have to build in any kind of community-based fee, quote unquote. But yeah, as far as PVT, I don't believe we have one.
No, but we did have it.
We did.
And we still do.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yeah, if you look on our Facebook page, you can see the things that we did do and are continuing to do for the community. And it's really related primarily just to the west side. Scholarships for Waianae High, Nanakuli High, and then Kaimali Academy. I think that's what it is. I think we give out about 25 scholarships per year. We've been doing that for over 20 years. And then in addition to that, we definitely participate in many of the community help programs, whether it's feeding the homeless, we'll help those groups, and we'll also participate with fundraising activities with schools, and then whether it's sports related, academic related. We really try and focus on the academic side, because sports programs get pretty much what they need, especially football. But a lot of the other groups, robotics, their arts and performing cultural groups, those kind of guys really get very little attention. So we try and sponsor a lot of their trips if they make the competition to the mainland. With the Nanakuli Performing Arts Group, we helped get them to Ireland, for a special invitation over there. So I don't know. We've been actively involved with the community in that direction on our own. What we wanted to do, and not forced to do.
don't know if that answered your question, but yours is based off of some sort of community feedback to the community for having a landfill. I'll say it straight out, basically, because that's what I went through also. And I'm not going to say it's difficult. I'm just saying that is an option, not to give away a farm or not to. It can be a business decision at one point, depending on that. But then again, that's never a guarantee too that your community can be satisfied. You're welcome.
Okay, it's about 2:23 right now, and we're actually supposed to be at the next site at 2:30. So we wanted to thank you guys very much, Albert and Joe, for your time today and the information. We really appreciate it. Round of applause for Joe and Albert, please.
Take care. Take care. Start safely.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so more official business. So we are currently in our meeting. Are there any discussions? Questions? Additional questions? If not, is there a motion to recess? Ken Carhar motions to recess. Is there a second? Jimmy seconds. Any objections? No, hearing none, the committee stands in recess until we reach the Waimanalo Gulch Sanitary Landfill. Again, as a reminder, since we're going to be in recess, please hold all discussions about the LAC business until the meeting is reconvened. Thank you.